Good evening. It is Friday, February 11th, 2022. Looking through the book of 1 Samuel, we see that the jealousy of Saul grew, and he even had several military campaigns attempting to take David out, all of them unsuccessful. Today we're going to look at a specific incident that's recorded in 1 Samuel chapter 24, verses 1 to 5, and again I'm reading from the New Living Translation, 2nd edition. After Saul returned from fighting the Philistines, he was told that David had gone into the wilderness of En-Gedi. So Saul chose 3,000 elite troops from all Israel and went to search for David and his men near the rocks of the wild goats. At the place where the road passes some sheepfolds, Saul went into a cave to relieve himself. But as it happened, David and his men were hiding farther back in that very cave. "Now's your opportunity," David's men whispered to him. "Today the Lord is telling you, I will certainly put your enemy in your power to do with as you wish." So David crept forward and cut off a piece of the hem of Saul's robe. But then David's conscience began bothering him because he had cut Saul's robe. He said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do this to my lord the king. I shouldn't attack the Lord's anointed one, for the Lord himself has chosen him." This is one of the most hilarious events in all of this story, between the interaction between Saul and David. Saul's chasing him, has 3,000 troops, and all of a sudden he has the urge to relieve himself. He had to go pee and so forth. And so he goes into the cave and he takes his robe off so he doesn't splash on it, and he squats down and he does his business. And while he does that, David reaches over and just hacks off a corner of his robe. And it's a royal robe, so it's going to be, fairly noticeable and different from everybody else's robe. But I want you to notice the query that David's men gave to him. They said, "Hey, David, this is a God-given opportunity. God has dropped him in your lap. Go ahead and kill him. He's in your power. Capture him, kill him." But David would not, and David did not. David had a sense of character where he recognized that there were rules that needed to be followed. And one of the rules that David's character demanded that he follow is the rule that I will not touch the Lord's anointed. I've seen that so often through the years, that people take circumstances and take a set of circumstances and say, well, that's God speaking. That's what God must want. And that's what David's men did. They saw the opportunity and said, David sees the opportunity. Surely God has dropped this in your lap. And David says no, because David's character and David's sense of right and wrong would not allow him to do what his men were requesting. If they put it to a majority vote, Saul would have died that day. But it wasn't up for a majority vote. There was only one vote that counted, and that was David's vote. And he was a man of character and strength of character and knowledge of right and wrong. And at least in this stage of his life, he very strongly stood for we will not do wrong, we will not take advantage of the Lord's anointed. See, character counts. And David not only had the character to do the right thing, David had the leadership skills to influence and persuade his men to do the right thing as well. So often people want to look at their situation and shout, obviously God wants me to do what I really want to do anyway. And they forget that beneath that opportunity should be an underlying character that knows the difference between right and wrong. And it is always wrong to treat people poorly. It is always wrong to diminish and demean people. It is always wrong to take advantage of situations where you're not entirely sure what you should do. And that's what David did. Now, he did stand at the cave afterward and holler at Saul and show Saul how close he had come to death, to try and show Saul that he had not had any ill intentions towards Saul. But that didn't stop Saul's desire to take David out. And Saul kept trying to harm David. But David knew that when he had the opportunity, he chose what was right instead of what was expedient. May all of our choices be for what's right instead of just what's easiest or most expedient. God bless you.